John Graham wanted to go on an expedition. He had had a promising army career, but he was an unfulfilled man till another man called Harry Smith, also a military man who had defeated the Indians, arrived in the Cape. His mission was different to John Graham. His mission was to exterminate the barbarian races in a country far-flung from the United Kingdom. That country happened to be the Eastern Cape. He arrived in 1813, and he would soon ask for permission from John Liverpool, the Secretary of the Colonies, for the expulsion of the Kaffirs from the Zurberg and the Zurveld. The two chiefs of the Xhosa, Nika and Ndlambe, inhabited the area, roamed freely, but John Graham had no time for this. A notice was sent out to Ndlambe, telling him that the land belonged to the crown. Understandably, Ndlambe resisted this, rejected it. In fact, the story is told that when he received the letter, he took it, looked at it because he couldn't read it, and spat on it, and gave the instruction that the message must go back to whoever sent you, that the king does not reside in a place I have never seen. The king is here. But that set in motion a bloody war, which was the Fourth Frontier War. By the end of 1813, the area had been cleared of the Kaffir races. We now know that place as Graham's Town, and another town called Harry Smith. This is the true story of the making of South Africa. When the largest expropriation without compensation took place in 1955, it was called the Group Areas Act. When that took place, it took place on a land that had been constructed as a white man's country. It took place on land that had been established as an anti-black country.
The atrocities that were committed on your lands, atrocities that the other parts of Africa are still victims of.
I do not believe and do not believe that we ever conceived lands as something any one of us, could own.
We expect somebody to give us an identity to say, I'm an African because of the land that I occupy. I don't believe in the notion that Africans are wounded.
I am definitely wounded. I am so wounded. It doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot be healed and strong when you are wounded. That being wounded is also part of what I am and who I am. And so what wounded people do when they don't process that is that we reproduce the patterns of wounding, because it's the only way in which you know how to relate to ourselves and to each other.
George Gray's mission had been to civilize the barbarian races. And by civilization, he meant three things: education. So today I'm very proud you're speaking English. Christianity. My mother was a Methodist. And labor. 2/3 of the land of the Xhosas had been subsumed into crown land. Every fort in the Eastern Cape has a church at the back of it. So God, the army, and education were extensions of empire. A police station always was located adjacent to the magistrate's court. So the law was itself an extension of war. South Africa is therefore established on an anti-black premise.
At the end of the day, when you exist in an economic system that doesn't care about justice, it's bullshit, but this is the system that we live in. So is there an economic case, a business case for land redistribution that can also help us as we go towards this process of nation building?
Is there a way in which we can think about the return of the land as a measure of building the country, right? Or can we think about land only as the return of the assets without thinking the larger nation-building project? So that's the first thing so think about what is the framework in which we look at the return of land. Is land, in fact, linked at all to the story of nation-building, right? It seems to me that a proper framework might be to look at the problem from the lens of the TRC process, to start asking whether or not it was a mistake to exclude land from the discussion around the truth and reconciliation, and therefore to think about whether land might contribute to the project of reconciliation. There was another fault line with the TRC, quite apart from its narrow mandate. It did not include the land question. It was investigating the crimes of apartheid. But in doing so, the TRC process evaded the central question. Apartheid was itself a crime.
Now, as through this world I ramble, I see lots of funny men. Some will rob you with a 6-gun, and some with a fountain pen. Canada specialized in the pen. Other countries preferred the gun. Both robbed the Indians. But I believe in hope and possibility, and nobody has given the world more of this than South Africans have over the past several generations. The old name for the Bushmen was the San. After thousands of years as hunters and gatherers, and long before the systemic evils of apartheid, they had themselves been hunted down and gathered up, essentially as slave labor, by the herders and farmers who came into their homeland. With their bows and arrows and poison arrows, they were not a welcome sight to the settlers, who placed them in the category of vermin and sought to clear them out by any means possible. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Come we go burn down Babylon one more time. Come we go chant down Babylon one more time, sings Bob Marley. For them soft, yes, them soft. And how I know, and that's how I know. With music, make we chant down Babylon.
Today, we are told, when we talk about land claims, that the people of Rustenburg, that tribe owns that part of the county, and the royalty that comes from the money as theirs alone.
Europeans were never interested in giving Africans their humanity. What they wanted was to pillage and to plunder the land. So we have to think whether the laws themselves should not be expanded in order to meet today's demands of justice. So the revolution in many ways has been postponed. But it is our generation that has a responsibility not to postpone it further. I quoted Fanon to students recently. I should quote him again. Every generation has a duty to discover its mission. It must either fulfill it or betray it. Thank you.